I'm Alex McLean. I'm a senior lecturer in archaeology at the University of York. Absolutely. I think a project like this would not have happened without the drive that the community had to make it happen in the first place. So I think in that regard, for this project, it's been absolutely essential. If we had come in to a place where there was very little existing community engagement and tried to make this project happen, it would not nearly have been so successful. I think that does depend on there being often pre-existing groups who know each other and who are interested in the local heritage. So that may be easier to achieve in some places than others. Getting that level of interest and community engagement may be easier in communities that are more affluent, have more time, even have more retired people who have the time on their hands and aren't necessarily working full time and things like that. In inner city areas where they might be less aware of the heritage of the area because it's been built up and it's very modernized, it may be harder to get that kind of community involvement. But even so, I don't think we want to go without it. I think it's something we should be continually striving to get, because that is what enables the sort of knowledge transfer back and forth and the genuine engagement of the community, rather than bringing in an artificially built community to work on a project. Yeah, I think so. I think it's important for the university or the archaeological expertise not to be necessarily the driving force all the time. We don't want it to be top down where we come in and sort of tell people what to do. But I think a lot of times what we can provide is the expertise, the sort of trained expertise that they may not have on hand, but they have a lot of interest and a lot of manpower and a lot of investment because it's their local project and community. And I think the other thing we can sometimes do, which is often underrated, I think, is just provide equipment and material. It's very hard for these groups to necessarily get their hands on some of the equipment that's very standard to have in an archaeology department, as the specialist stuff like geophysics equipment or surveying total stations and things like that. But even as much as having sufficient tape measures and pegs and all the things that you need to lay out, so that cost doesn't fall on the community archaeology group, but it's something that we can provide.
Absolutely. The problem for us initially was that we were a number of enthusiastic amateurs who were perfectly willing to put the time in, but lacked the overall expertise and knowledge that the university was able to supply. The skills, the equipment, and the just depth of background research that they'd previously done. It's been invaluable.
I think that probably does it a little bit of a disservice, because it's they are technically amateurs and that they're not fully trained, but they often come with a level of knowledge from their own backgrounds. Some of them have done quite extensive experience in archaeology and things like that before. A lot of them have done historical research. A lot of them are very knowledgeable about the local area in terms of the geology and the topography and the natural environment. So I think they bring a lot of times a lot of experience that we don't necessarily have as trained archaeologists. So I think it's really the combination of those two things that brings the most benefit. So although on their part they may be doing it as amateurs, I think we're able to train them in the necessary ways so that they can help and participate fully in the project. But also they're telling us a lot of things we need to know to be able to understand the archaeology that we generate.